Welcome to Weird Games and Weirder People, a podcast about role-playing games and the weird, wonderful people behind them.
Hello Weirdos, this is Diogo Nogueira, and before I introduce today's guest, I would like to talk to you about the current offer on Bundle of Holding for Forged in the Dark games, who is offering many great games with the Forged in the Dark system, including the same very own Blades in the Dark, some accessories for it, like Haste in the Darks and 4 Blades in the decks, other games like Court of Blades, Mountain Home, a Torch in the Dark, and my very own Cosmosaurus, which is a space dinosaur ranger games. It's a very family-friendly game, beautiful illustrated by Łukasz Kowalski, who I recently interviewed, is going to be on a future episode. It's a great deal, and part of the proceedings you go to the Diana Award Foundations, who rewards up-and-coming names in the tabletop RPG space, especially from marginalized communities. And now talking again about today's guest is none other than Navi Drake. Navi is one half of a couple of Drakes, the people behind games such as Court of Blades, which I just mentioned is in the Blades of Dark bundle of holding, Dead Bell 2 and Fey World, how she's a mother of two and an avid hobby collector, living in a haunted house in the Appalachian mountains. We talk about her experiences living in haunted places. We talk about how she has a very practical view on spirituality, how she has been making lots of games recently, how she has this very practical approach that she likes to say that you can only eat an elephant one bite at a time. So she's building her games, like starting with zines and now going for bigger projects, how she loves to build stuff, how she likes to refinish old furniture, how she loves Legos, and many other really great things like the people that influence her, the games that she finds weird and inspires her. And we got really deep and have really great insights, talked about game design and the way we see our community and the people that inspires us. It was a great chat. I hope you like it as much as we did. So let's get weird with Navi Drake. Hello, Navi. Thanks so much for being here. It's an honor to have Navi Drake here in the Weird Games and Weirder People. And how are you, my friend? How have you been?
I'm so excited to be here. I was so excited when you invited me. I jumped on the waiting list. I'm like, I don't care how long it takes. I'm getting on it right now.
Thank you so much.
I think
Yeah, I mean, I have so much people that I want to invite here. I have a list of about 200 names, and I get to know people like every day. And some people have asked me to be on the show, and I'm trying to have everybody, but I'm trying to get people from different backgrounds, different circles. But I really wanted to have you here, and we talked a bunch on Twitter. We have collaborated a little bit. You helped me reach another place in another country, and I'm really grateful for you, for your help, for your generosity, and for the things I see you doing in our space. But maybe someone out there doesn't know who Navi Drake is, and I want to guests who come here to have a chance to say who they are by themselves, instead of being, waiting for someone to say who they are. So, Navi, can you say who Navi Drake is? What do you do? And if you can you share just a small weird detail about yourself?
Oh boy, how long do we have? I'm kidding. So I'm Navi Drake. I am half of a couple of Drake's publishing teams. So we did like Court of Blades and Dead Belt. We're working on Feyborg, which was just successfully kickstarted, and then we have tons and tons of little zine games running around. So you got Skyworthy and Disaster Wing and Disaster Piece, and I can go on and on. We made too many games. So yeah, no, this is where my passion clearly lies. So we kind of hit the scene running in that regard. Just came out and like, let's make a ton of games and it's gonna be really fun. And that's what we did. We're only now slowing down and working on bigger games, which has also been really fun. A weird fact about me. I don't know what classifies as weird. What can be weird? I'm pretty weird in general, so I feel like
yeah. Just a small thing that someone said, oh, it's weird that you do that, and like now I'm drinking orange juice with coffee, and people think that's weird and
Wait,
stuff like this.
do you really?
Yeah, it's good. Half a glass of orange juice, a cup of ice, and
Hmm.
some espresso. It's very good.
Oh
it's
man,
it's it's too hot
that's
here in Brazil, so drinking hot coffee sometimes it's too
oh,
much.
and I'm that person where it could be just burning hot, 100% humidity, and I'm still sitting there with a hot latte. That might be my weird thing. But I also just recently
Yeah,
discovered another weird drink over at my cafe. I think they call them like gear shifts or something, and it's like coffee with ginger ale in it. It's very bizarre, but it's actually pretty tasty. So that was weird too. But that one was good. So I'll give you the orange juice thing might actually work. If ginger ale works, orange juice might work. But yeah, so besides the coffee
yeah, yeah.
thing, gosh, I guess my weird thing right now is I'm super into refinishing old furniture in a way that people my age typically aren't. And like all of my friends give me the side eye when I'm talking about how excited I am about this weird piece of furniture that I found, how I'm going to restore it. And they're like, what does that even mean? Like they have no idea what it entails. They don't want to hear about it. They have no idea why I'm so excited about this hunk of wood that I just brought home. So that might be my weirdest thing right this second.
How did you get into that, into refinishing old furniture? I kind of understand, because I feel like contemporary furniture you go to stores to buy, it's just so cheap wood. It's just that wood compensates like a block
Mm-hmm.
of wood
MDF
grain, wood pulp.
plywood.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's yeah. Old furniture is great. They are durable. They look like real wood. And if you drop your glass of water there, it doesn't start to getting
Melt.
yeah, you know.
I think
So
that
yeah.
that has a lot to do with how I got started. I took I've always been into weird crafty stuff. I learned from a really young age. My grandfather was a like a carpenter, right? So I've always been around that stuff, and I've always kind of had an appreciation for the value of like well-made things, because especially a piece of furniture, when it's well made and it's pure wood, you can sand it and refinish it 1,000 times, and it's still a solid piece of wood. So it will last forever. And I started really refinishing pieces, like restoring pieces, in my early 20s. And part of it also had to do with the whole what do they call it, a wine taste on a beer budget or something like that. You can pick up really substantial beat up piece of furniture dirt cheap, and with a little bit of elbow grease and a few dollars more in materials, you can completely restore it. So it gives me a ton of joy when I get like a $30 item from a thrift store or something, and then by the time I'm done refinishing it, maybe $50 in materials, and it looks like a $1,200 thing you grabbed at Crate and Barrel or something. So, and since it's hardwood, it's going to last forever. So I'm still like that. I'm like, okay, I could buy something expensive and nice, but this will be something that's more personal to me. It's the exact thing that I
Yeah,
want. They tend to have a lot of
yeah,
character and weirdness to them. Like some of the pieces that I got were like folk art pieces, and you just don't get that anymore. They are strange items. So it excites me because of how weird they are. It's not the stuff
yeah,
you get at the store anymore.
yeah. Yeah, it's not like also super mass produced, so everybody has the same. And if you're finishing it, it has a bit of you in it. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it relates a lot to art, crafting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important. And it's something that I am trying to build with my son. This habits of crafting something. It can be words, can be you know toys, playing with Legos, or drawing or creating something. It's
Oh, I
very
love
fulfilling,
Legos.
right?
It's my deep
Yeah.
dark secrets. I love Lego kits. I buy my kids Lego kits
There's
and I
still,
put them
yeah.
together.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
hands off.
I used to get a lot of Legos. I don't put them off myself now, because my kid loves them, and it's always like making new stuff. When we buy like the new set, he puts it up like in the box, but then he just takes it apart and started making his own stuff, and
I love
sometimes it's really impressive. Like he really gets into this building things. He's super into Minecraft, and
that.
so that's something good.
Hmm.
Yeah.
No, my kids, yeah, Minecraft, same thing. Like, they got me playing Minecraft. I just recently found out that Minecraft, they did an update with the Java edition where you can zoom out. Because, and here's another weird thing about me, I get with first person games, a lot of them, not all of them for some reason, but most of them, and the original Minecraft for sure,
Yeah.
I get motion sickness really quickly while I'm playing. So I've never been able to play Minecraft, and I was so jealous watching the kids, like peeking at the kids playing Minecraft because it makes me so dizzy. And when they came out with Java Edition, it has third person zoomed out, and that's what I need in order
Oh.
for it not to make me dizzy. So now I'm
Yeah.
playing it. I'm so excited. I'm like, I'm the new kid on the block. The game is so old, and I'm just new to it because
Yeah.
I could finally sit and watch it.
Yeah. Well, we found it this year. So my kid just got a video game last Christmas. So he got into Minecraft this year, and we're getting into it. Uh, but it's hard. He only plays like in the creative mode. So like the more
Mm-hmm.
challenging exploration stuff, he's not really into yet. He has some issues with losing, and so he's getting used to it. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it
Yeah,
gets old if
that's my
it's like
youngest.
it's a hyper focus. It's super like he wakes up, he doesn't even say good morning. He starts talking about Minecraft and like slow down, please.
I gotta get around my coffee first. Hold on.
Yeah,
That's so good. That's
uh,
adorable. My youngest
yeah,
is like that. He loves creative mode, and like my oldest will play on like the adventure mode with me, but my youngest is kind of like, why don't we
yeah,
just build cool stuff, mom?
yeah. Yeah, we do like battles, construction battles to do towers and stuff and things
Hmm.
like this. Navi, we're
Hmm.
talking here a lot about the weird, and we kind of see the weird as something good, like weird is the new wonderful. Uh, but for you, how do you see the weird? How would you define the weird for you? And how do you explore it in your work, in your
Hmm.
life, and the things you enjoy?
One of the weirds is that loud sound you hear in the background. My kid is making a ton of noise back there. No, in oh, it's a hard one to define. I think that anything that
Yeah,
breaks conventional, what is conventional, what's considered normal right now. I think anything outside of that can be weird, and sometimes weird even goes mainstream, and maybe that makes it less weird. I don't know, but I think that anytime that you are bucking convention, you're probably weird in someone's opinion, at least. Now, what's weird to you individually is, I'm sure, is different. Nothing really seems weird to me because, I've kind of seen it. I've kind of seen it all, and I take it. I'm very open minded, and I kind of take things in the spirit that they're delivered to me. So I don't. I don't think I ever look at things myself and go, "Oh, that's really really weird." But probably on occasion, maybe. I just can't think of anything off the top of my head that I personally have looked at and went, "Wow, that's."
yeah. I think over time, especially when I was younger, like in 80s, 90s, or 2000s, still the weird, the different was still seen as something bad. Was
Mhm.
you're distancing yourself from the tribe, from what is accepted, what is the norm. But over time, we began to accept the each other's individuality a little bit more. We began to see diversity as something that's valuable, something that can teach us, something that can help everybody grow, and the word became, as you said, the word can become something mainstream as we start to accept that everybody can be unique and different and weird, because the weird is this, as you said, something that challenges assumptions. So when we break the norm, as you say, we begin to distance ourselves from our peers, and begin drawing attention. And back when this wasn't accepted, you would be beaten into submission, to be just like everybody else. Uh, but yeah, we got to a point to say, no, that's enough. We are weird. Everybody can be their own thing, and I think that's something great. And even as it says, becoming mainstream, I think it's good because we're more acceptable, how do I say that? We're more accepting of others and their weirdness,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's things that happen that I still get excited about. I think the first time I saw people being openly accepted, being heavily tattooed and pierced in a common workplace was it's like Starbucks. That became a normal thing. Like you could comfortably get a job at Starbucks frontline and have all that stuff that really does still in the U.S. It still can make it pretty tricky for you to get a good job. So. Like that was something that I loved. That was seeing it become more normal, that allowing people to express their individuality in that way. Changing how you want to look should be something that you have the absolute right to do without it being a hindrance, because society has these strange expectations. So yeah, no, I like when the weird is allowed. I like when the unique is embraced, and we are moving into this period where we're more. I don't want to say forgiving. That's more understanding. No, embracing. We're more embracing of people actually expressing themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, let that freak flag fly.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it also has to do with accepting ourselves too, our own weirdness, because we sometimes tend to block to try to hide away these things, and we are really only able to accept the weirdness in others after we accept the in ourselves, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and going from this, do you have any kind of weird ritual that you partake in before you start working on your work, on your art, before you start writing? Do you have any ritual, anything that you do every day to help you get into the moods, to the flow of the
Mm-hmm.
creative process?
I so I kind of have this thing that I always say to myself. And everybody gets tired of hearing it in my house, but no matter what it is, I always say, the only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So whenever I have a project sitting in front of me, I just remind myself that you can't get it done if you don't do it in small pieces. It's got like there's no such thing as going from the idea to completion with nothing in between. It's all little tiny bites that lead to the completion. You have to be willing to
Yeah,
you have to
yeah,
be willing to do the chewing, right? So
yeah,
I remind myself of that, and that really helps me go, okay, I can do this. Like that's my cue rather, to like sit down and start working. I gotta take the bite, and then the one bite will lead to the next bite, and then I'll get momentum. And once you have momentum, it's really actually hard to stop. It's when you're starting from like that breaking into momentum that is so hard, when you've got nothing started yet, or you're not sure what you're working on yet. You're just kind of like frozen trying to figure it out. And that can be
yeah.
such a huge roadblock, which is why I love that saying. And it reminds me, okay, we're just going to jump into it, find something that I can bite onto, and then it'll start happening from there because I'll have built up some momentum. And then the other thing that I do is I have a playlist specifically that kind of helps me focus. And it's a really weird mashup of things that don't distract me. So it's got some classical music in there. It has a lot of music and languages that I don't speak because they don't distract me. Because I don't. I might know what the song's about. I usually look up the lyrics and stuff on songs that I enjoy the sound of, but they don't distract me because I don't speak it, so I can't really sing along most of the time. So I've got like a lot of Arabic and Japanese and German, and some people, like if you were to listen to my playlist, you'd probably think I'd lost my mind because you'll go from Bach to Rammstein, and but it's all to me the same kind of really calming background noise that helps keep me focused but doesn't take my attention away.
Yeah, yeah. I have this problem too. Like if I listen to music that has lyrics, and because I like one of the songs that I sing before I go to work has lyrics. But if I put that while I'm working, no way. I will start singing. I will start paying attention to the lyrics. So yeah, nowadays I'm listening to more like lo-fi and some like electronic music that they say it's like this narrow effect that helps you concentrate. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how truthful is this, but it helps me concentrate, especially reading. When I'm like on the subway, I want to read a book, and I
Mm-hmm.
put the headphones on, and I put this kind of neuro music, and it really helps, concentrate and stuff.
I
And
love
they
that.
say it's all made by humans, not robots, so I'm good.
Oh, I know. So much of it is made by robots now. It's
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
really wild. I just recently discovered like AI covers. It's like they deep fake singers' voices and have them sing other people's songs.
Yeah.
It's really
Wow.
bizarre stuff. It's really weird.
Yeah. Uh, Navi, do you have any idea of main source of inspirations for you in your work? I say, like, for myself, I know a lot of the stuff that I get inspired to make my games, make my art, comes from my childhood, like the
Hmm.
pop culture that I like, and like cartoons and movies and TV series. Do you have anything like this, or an artist or some kind of fiction that you constantly see yourself drawing from?
Oh man, it's so tricky because I'm inspired by, I mean, I'm inspired a little bit by everything, right? Everything kind of collects in your mind and gets trapped in your subconscious, and eventually it bubbles up in some interesting
Yeah.
way. So my projects tend to be they're very varied in their nature because I pull from I have an eclectic taste. I pull from a wide variety of sources. I'm inspired by a lot of things. I don't ever really limit myself, and if I think that like I might not like something, I'll still check it out just to make sure, you know. So like I do get a lot of inspiration from the most interesting little pieces of things that I've enjoyed. So, for instance, um, the opening scene of Spirited Away. There's this big ghost market where the family goes through, and that's where the parents actually get trapped. And the little girl has to go on this adventure to get her parents back. Obviously, if nobody's ever seen Spirited Away, it's amazing. You should
Hmm.
watch it. It's a Miyazaki film. It's so good. But that wasn't the whole movie. That was just a little tiny piece of the movie, this opening moment. And I loved it so much and I was inspired by it. I actually went and wrote Spirited Cafe, which is this idea of you being indentured to the witch at the crossroads, and you have to be one of the people who runs those stalls, and you have to feed the weird monsters and ghosts and things that come through, and keep them happy so they don't eat you. And if you can't disappoint them, or they'll get upset, and then you have to pay a price because you're supposed to be doing a good job, right? So Spirit Cafe was
Yeah.
inspired just by that little opening moment of this ghost market. And I was like, you know what, it'd be really cool. Well, if what if you had to work there? So like that was one. And then right now I am working on like this cute little game that we're calling Sprout Quest. And it's probably the first lighthearted game that I've like really lighthearted, where you would absolutely be comfortable playing it with your young children type of thing, where you're playing like
Mhm.
little eternal fairy children that have to go run around and wake up all the elders so that they can usher in spring, right? So that's your job. And that inspiration came largely from, once again, the weirdest thing, Zelda, the original, like Zelda 64, the Kokiri village that you wake up in, and they're all eternal children. Like that was kind of what inspired me to want to go on and make this other
Yeah.
game. Well, what kind of adventures do they get into? That's really cool because we know what adventure Link gets into, but what about all the other little sprites? So I do take inspiration from things that I've seen. Just usually it's just usually like the small piece that catches my attention,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
make something else out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've watched a course on game design of Will Wright, and he talks about how the game designer has to learn how to have this eye, this analytic eye, to see like small things and make a game of it. Like you look at a rock and make a game about all the microorganisms waging a war for the dominance of that rock, and just as you did, like look at as a greater thing, a greater experience, and looking on a small thing or small interaction, a small happening that you can,
Mhm.
uh, you know, overscale like a macro vision if in creating something gameable. So I
Mhm.
think
And
that's
I think that's
very
actually really important
very
because
acute trained eye, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like it's super important to feel comfortable doing that too, because like small games are so important to just developing your toolkit as a game designer when you
Yeah.
make small games and you play with small ideas that are just satisfying but you can get them out there quickly. I really do feel like it helps you develop your chops much faster than if you were to just sit there and focus on your one magnum
Yeah.
opus for years and years and years. Like,
For
embrace the
sure.
small weird ideas, just throw them out there. Like, even if you never complete them, let them be
Yeah.
ash cans. That's what we call it. It's actually an old
Yeah.
term. It just means, junk. Let it be something that you never finish, but you just put out
Yeah.
there for people to see and get feedback on, because it's gonna make it so much better. And those little ideas, those little weird ones, are like the best place to really cut your teeth, I think. So I think they're really important.
Yeah. All the lessons I hear from game designers is always about, yeah, making lots of games, making small games, making like this interactive way of making game design. You don't just wait to make the perfect game, just make lots of small ones, and over time you can get ideas, and you upgrade your skill, you hone your skill by making out of this, and you can start stealing from yourself, steal this thing from this game and this thing from that game, and over
Mhm.
time you will build something, and you clearly see your evolution. Right? I can see how my journey through game design got me through Primal Quest or Cosmos Star, and I'm sure you, as you made so many games, that you see like the roots of your game design in your first games, and but you can see how it evolves through the things you're doing now, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
when I first started out, I started safe. I started with hacks. Like, some other
yeah,
people have wonderful SRDs. I'll grab an SRD and I'll make something
it's a
really
perfect
cool.
way to start. Yeah,
It is,
yeah,
and then I got more comfortable messing with their SRDs. Okay, well, what if I add really cool stuff? What if I change this, and what if I strip this down? And so then they start
yeah,
getting weirder and weirder and less like the original. And I mean, I've played with so many SRDs too. I love working on other people's stuff because I generally trust that they probably play tested it and know that the core works. So maybe not, but like it's a safe place to
yeah,
start iterating from.
yeah.
Now I've recently just hit this stride, and I've only been game designing for a couple of years, and I've just hit the stride now where when we went to start that cute one, Sprout Quest, I didn't grab an SRD, I didn't grab anything. I basically had this jumbled idea of all these mechanics that I knew would work
Hmm.
together or should pretty well work together because of all the other games that I've written that had kind of similar here and there parts. And I just started writing. So completely from scratch, just started writing the entire game out. And I had all of the mechanical parts done, like 5,000 words, all the mechanical underpinnings done in a single afternoon. And I was ready to start putting all the flavor on top of it. So,
Wow.
you
Yeah,
do, it's a muscle, and you'll get better the more you
yeah,
exercise that muscle.
yeah, for sure. And even though we do games from scratch, we're always drawing, tools from other games, and maybe like for
Mm.
example, Primal Quest draws a lot from Genesis, for example, from Star Wars system. Even though they don't use the same system on the dice, but the way the game rationalize results and produce fictions. Like for example, I draw from Fate, I draw from Call of Cthulhu, I draw from Out of Base, but use different dice and different mechanics, but the idea, of how to do that things, it's similar. So we learn through other games and through games we made. So
Mhm.
do you see yourself doing that with Sprawl Quest? Like, do you draw any idea that you modified or something for another game that you, even though you completely remade it for Sprawl Quest, did
Mhm.
anything inspired you from another game?
Oh, absolutely. It's actually so hard because I like to
Yeah,
consume other people's games so much. I like to read and see what they're doing, even if it's not maybe in a genre I love. I just want to see what they're doing mechanically and how they're making things hang together, and that's exciting to me. So I
yeah,
consume so much that when I sit down to write something, I have the problem where I don't really strive to be original. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I'd rather have fun than be a
yeah,
genius.
yeah,
So, but I have this thing where I'm like, you know what? I don't feel like anything that I do is truly original, because as I'm putting down all these cool mechanics, I'm like, oh, I saw something like this in that game, and these things are very much like in this
yeah,
system. And so I could like point to all the different aspects and go, this is from that, this is from that, this is where I've seen this work. And then like there might be a
yeah.
few things that are original, but I'll be like, they're original, but like I feel like anybody could have thought of that. So never
But
mind.
it's true. No, it's still original because you're taking something from a context, putting another one, combining with different things, and using it in a different situation. So even
Mhm.
though like we're stealing from so many people, we're combining them in, like in different configurations. So it is originality, right? So I love this phrase that says originality. It's kind of undetected plagiarism, but I love to say that originality is it's plagiarism is when you steal from one, and
Mhm.
originality is when you steal from like 100. So you
I
mix
love
them up, you know. So
No, I
yeah,
absolutely love that, and I know that for a fact because ever since I discovered the first game that I played that really got me to stop playing Dungeons and Dragons was Blades in the Dark. So I think a little, at least a little bit of that DNA is in almost every single one of my games because I really loved it. And then once I started playing that, that's really what opened my eyes to other indie games. And I found out there's a whole world of indie games. And then I just started devouring
yeah,
all of them. Like I had
yeah.
after that they became Pokemon, and I just had to collect them all. And I've been doing my best to play them all too, but there's a lot of really great games out there.
It's and every day there is more, and like in really great ones. For I'm really grateful Cosmosaurus won an award from the Dell Awards 2023, and there were so many other fantastic games there that I haven't even heard, and I consider, but like we are inserted in in the community, and something that I take to heart that for you to be interesting, you have to be interested. So
Mhm.
I'm always interested in what people are doing, but there were so many games that I haven't even heard, and they were so good and doing so such unique things that this makes me think like, wow, I wonder how much cooler the games will be like in 10 years from now. How the games we ourselves will be making would be like, I can even imagine. We'll probably be playing with things we are not even, realizing right now, I think.
No, I completely agree. Because like you could look back at the games that were popular 10 years ago and 20 years ago, and you can see these huge leaps in really pushing the boundaries of what we're willing to call a game and how we're willing to
Yeah.
interface with games, and how much we really want to push like role playing. Some games really push you to be so narrative forward that it kind of brings you out of your shell in a way that some of the older school games don't necessarily ask
Yeah.
that of you. Like you can just roll dice, hang out, and like I call them beer and chips games, which I love. They just fit a different niche, and I think now we're starting to come
Yeah.
into this little bit of a renaissance where we're seeing all kinds of different styles appearing, and you're starting to see like all of these things that people like want from games that wasn't really being delivered previously, and it's really cool. So I don't know what things are going to look like in 10 years. It's wild. People are iterating so quickly. Like right now, like a good game comes out every couple months, it
Yeah.
feels like.
Yeah. 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 Nevi, do you have any particular creator or artist that inspires you in some way that you take as a model for the way they work or the way they do their games or they do any other kind of art? Nothing doesn't necessarily has to be games. It can
Mhm.
be a musician, it can be like a painter or comedian or anything like this.
Oh, wow, you just opened up the playing field. There's I think that there's a lot of individuals that I think do cool stuff and whatnot. But I'm gonna put you on the spot for a second because when I first joined the indie scene, just right after I discovered like Blazing Dark and stuff, I discovered you and your stuff. On
Oh.
Twitter, and I had this little tiny account, and you followed me back. And I remember running around the house so excited, telling my partner, "Do you follow me back?" And I was so excited about it. And like, and on other podcasts,
Wow.
I've said that you are the designer that I wanted to be when I grow up because your stuff is so cool. It's innovative. It's flavorful.
Thank you
Like
so
the
much.
art and the way that you view things and do things is so neat. And like, I think I own everything that you've ever made. So I think in this scene, especially specifically, like you've been a huge role model to me, and I've been like super excited. So when you were all like, "Ah, and you helped me, thanks," I'm like, "Ah," but I kept it inside. Now I'm letting it out.
Well, thank you so much, and I really like to connect with creators, and I saw you making stuff. So, uh, well, people who follow me are creators are making stuff. I'll probably follow them because I know I can learn from everybody, and everybody can learn from me. I like to share what I know. I'm really grateful for all the people that came before me and taught me so much. So if I can, I'll obviously share everything that I know, and something. It's I see our peers like friends or people that we can grow together, and I don't see a reason to feel like, oh, I'm we're too big for someone else, and it feels weird. I think, especially in a hobby that's a social game like ours, like it's
Right.
essentially social and collaborative. So
Mhm.
yeah,
I have the same feeling when people say like I don't have time to play games because I'm busy making games, and I'm like, what? Like, how do you keep up with what's cool and what's happening if you're not sitting down and playing them? I hope you're at least playing the ones you're making, but maybe not. I don't know.
yeah,
I no,
yeah.
I agree,
Well,
and I've,
it's
I've tried to keep the same. I've tried to keep that same momentum going. So I always say that like my DMs are always open to people asking questions about anything. I'm happy to answer if because I'll do random rant posts or tweets where I'll break down something I'm working on and try and give people the technical
yeah.
details and some looks into it and whatnot. But I know that they disappear and
That's a
they're
great
gone
thing
after
to
that.
do. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, but it's
yeah,
not very searchable because it's not a blog, it's not videos, it's not where you can direct somebody easily. So I don't mind repeating myself 20 times. If you got the same question, you just want to DM me,
yeah.
I'll answer for you because the door's always open and I want other people to make games.
Doesn't a couple of drakes has a blog or something that you can put those things so people can reference later?
I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm really bad. I actually used to blog when I was
Yeah,
younger. Like I did, and now I can't be
yeah.
bothered. We
We
have
got
our website.
comfortable, right? We got comfortable with social media, and social media was so easy to reach. But now I
Mhm,
think it's the opposite. Now I think it's getting harder and harder to reach people with social media. And maybe
mhm.
blogs are the thing again. We need to go back to it because
I
people can find
know.
it. It's reliable. Because social media, you can have 10,000 followers, you can post something, and nobody will see it for some reason.
Yeah, especially with like the algorithm changes on some of the platforms
Yeah,
lately, like it turns into a mess. Don't get me
yeah,
started on the bird site. The bird site's a hot mess right now,
yeah,
which is disappointing. But yeah, but blogs are kind
yeah,
of eternal, and it's really nice to be able. Like, I do have like the one useful blog post where I was like showing people how to set up like how to set up your files to get ready for print
yeah,
and like InDesign and Affinity. So like just the nonsense of walking through how to set up the right sizes and how to set up your
yeah,
gutters and your margins and make sure your hyphenation settings are not crazy and all that stuff because some of it's natively really bad. So I have this kind of like here's how to get started post, and I meant to do
yeah.
a part two. I have a half written part two that's getting into the actual pretty stuff, the designing and the layout.
Yeah.
It's been half done for about a year and a half. So that's how quick I'm moving on that. But yeah, it would be nice if like
Yeah.
I for some reason could just break through that barrier and actually make blog
Yeah.
posts.
Before Twitter got screwed up, uh, there was this kind of an app or a site that you could ask for it to turn a thread into a blog post.
Hmm.
It worked great, but now because the rules you can't see what's in Twitter if you're not in Twitter, those
Hmm.
sites can't do that. When you ask them to unroll a thread, they just get the last tweet. So
Oh, I didn't even know
yeah,
that. I don't.
yeah,
Well, I know I hadn't seen any in a while, but that really
yeah.
sucks.
Yeah, it's
Ah.
Twitter. It's ending. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just there because everybody's still there. I thought everybody was gonna move out, so I move out
Mhm.
to blue sky. But people are not there. People are still in Twitter
Yeah.
for
So
some
same.
reason.
Like
Yeah,
I have a Blue Sky account, and like
yeah,
Blue Sky's kind of weird. It's all the same. It's mostly the same people from Twitter, but they only make their advertisement posts. None of their cool. I call them shit posts. Like the posts that are just
yeah.
random. They don't make any of those. That's the cool stuff. That's where the
No,
personality is.
that's great. But they still don't interact there so much. They still interacting more on
Exactly.
Twitter. So I guess I'm staying in this hell place. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, no, exactly. And then I made a Threads account, but like
Yeah.
again, like I'm on Threads and I'm trying to make a couple posts over on Threads. I actually like Threads a little bit better than I liked Blue Sky, at least, because there's a little bit more. The algorithm's really good actually on Threads.
Yeah.
That's the only bonus. Is
Yeah.
like it has a good
Oh,
algorithm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you just kind of like if you start talking about things, it just assumes that's what you want more of, which most time
Oh,
it
yeah.
is, and then it just starts
Yeah.
filling up your page. So hey, but so I'm
Yeah.
over there a little bit, but I'm still kind of mostly on Twitter because even though the growth has stopped, I'm not reaching new people. All the people
Yeah.
I already love are still there. So new
Yeah.
people are nice, but like all my old friends are still there. So it's very hard to move
But
on.
yeah. Yeah, I have a feeling that even the old people don't see stuff anymore. Like the reach has dropped like
Mm-hmm.
dramatically, but it's still a lot of people there, and then a lot of people haven't moved it to other platforms,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard to find. I can still find it there, so I guess I'm staying until it's totally destroyed.
That's what I always say. I'm like, look, I'll stay here until it all comes down. But I am slowly building up presences in other places just in case one of them pulls ahead as like the clear this is where everybody's moving
Yeah,
to
yeah.
or whatever. Then I won't be completely late to the game. I'll be like, I don't know what's talking about. I only have 5 posts, but I've been here forever.
Navi, we're talking about Sprawl Quest,
Mhm.
the way the game is and how you play as children, and then talked about how the concept of the game is very weird. But could you share any of your favorite weird part of the game? Could it be mechanically or a place or a character, something that really caused your attention and connected to you in some way?
Oh goodness. So this was actually really fun because Shawn and I, that's my partner, the other half of my publishing
Yeah,
team. So Shawn and I have been working on a lot of big heavy projects lately because right now it's all about the layout and art for Feyborg, which just funded, and we're also working on a really big Forged in the Dark game it's called Heartbreaker Online, and that one has like a tactical combat system tacked onto it, which is really tricky to integrate into Forged in the Dark's narrative rules without making things feel like two games smashed together.
yeah,
And so that's been a really fun challenge. But I needed something to just kind of like, uh, cool my heels. Basically, I just need to do something that's fun and quick. So kind of returning to our old like we used to do a lot of jams where we would try to get a game done really fast. We're like, there's no jams going on, but let's just do a sprint. Let's just do a game sprint, and that's where we came up with the idea of Sprout Quest. So we've only been working on it for a couple weeks, and it's just flying together. It's almost just
wow, yeah,
text complete already. So it's been really fun. But to that effect, I didn't do a lot of planning for it. I just kind of sat down and started writing. Um, it's got a lot of weird bits and bobs because of the fact that you're kind of playing fairies, and we always do fairies, but usually we do scary fairies. That's kind of what we're actually known for, is scary fairies.
hmm,
But this is good, happy, lighthearted fairies. And I've been having just a lot of fun with like contacts. We did some really weird contacts. So when you're making your character, you get to have like a friend. Like we call them great friends, right? So like you get one great friend who can help you out in different scenarios. And so one of them is like the Silver Lake Hydra. It has 5 heads, and you're really great friends with 3 of those heads. The other 2, well, they like berries, so it's got a lot of that kind of goofy stuff. And then
awesome.
just those kind of like moments of like levity where things are inspire you to embrace how unusual something is, because you can shape, like, imagine calling your friend who's like only 60% or so your best friend and like you need a favor. So like it inspires a lot of strangeness at the table and how you want to interact with that. And I think that's a lot of fun in game design. Whenever I'm writing the flavors for, like, I consider the flavor and the mechanics kind of like 2 separate beasts. And when I'm writing the flavor for a game, what I'm always trying to do is inspire people to feel comfortable changing things, messing with things, taking narrative permissions and kind of stretching the meaning of what that thing actually means. Oh, I have this stick. What could I do with a stick? Well, you can do a lot with a stick if you're willing to be creative, right? So, but
Yeah.
putting in flavors so that people are comfortable with getting strange at the table, I think that that's like my favorite thing to do. I'm really big on packing in quietly whispered permissions. Go ahead and be weird. Go ahead and bend the rules. It's okay.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's a great way, to create game designers through. I remember here in Brazil, there's always this discussion about, the golden rule that said you could modify the rules like to fit what you want for the game, and everybody said, "Oh, that's lazy game designer that uh, encourages people to, uh, don't play the game as it's meant to be played." But for me, I always felt like, for me, that's the game designer formation room. Like, you
Hmm.
have you have the permission to play with this, and I love seeing games more like as like the Lego play sets. You can get it and play it as the box show you, but
Hmm.
you can take this apart and then make something for yourself too. And I think that's a great way to make games, so you can give them a packed experience they can play with, but they can also explore and make that more unique to themselves,
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah,
I really love that. Um, it's it's actually hard for me now to take somebody's game at face value, because when I'm playing it, if there's something sticky in there that I don't particularly like, I want to
yeah,
honor their intention, and
yeah,
usually I'll play by their rules for a couple sessions.
yeah,
But after a little while, if it's still sticking for me, I'll just home rule that real quick. No, that's
yeah,
no longer how that works. It works like this now. So I do that. Especially as game designer, I think I'm a little bit more comfortable with that. But I'm very happy to home rule very quickly at the table if something's not working for me or my table. And I think that people should feel comfortable with it. Like, of course, as I'm going to give you the best game that I can, that's going to do what I meant for it to do, but that doesn't mean that it's perfect for everyone and that you can't make
yeah,
small changes. You're not going to break it by making a couple tiny changes to better suit you. I gave you what I want to play, but maybe a little bit different is going to suit you better, and that's fine. I don't think that that's something that you could. I'm going to get mad at anybody for. If anybody tells me, "Oh, I redid this part," I'd be like, "Awesome, cool." You like make games.
yeah, yeah,
And that's the next
yeah.
step. You're falling down the rabbit
Yeah.
hole already.
Did that work for? One thing that I like to ask: did that work for you, and how it was? How did you prefer that? And that's the main thing. It's not about being the perfect mechanic, just the right mechanic for the situation or for the game you want to feel. And there's something that I think about when people have some questions about rules, that if you interpret one way, it can be a harsher rule, but if you interpret another way, it can be softer. And for me, that's kind of a space for the GM to, set the difficulty of the game. How gritty do you want the game? Do you want this? If you interpret it this way to be a grittier game, that's what you want? Perfect. You
Mhm.
want to interpret it another way to be a lighter game? Perfect. That you don't have to ask the designer, "Oh, what did you want?" It doesn't matter.
What did you
You know,
mean?
it's your game. It doesn't
Yeah,
maybe what I wanted was to give you those options.
exactly. I meant to make it ambiguous. Like, just get in
Yeah,
there. No, that's again. I've been trying. I inject a little bit more and more every time I make a game.
yeah,
More permissions with Feyborg. I have like a section in there on how to roll up your stats, and it's my favorite stat array is like you roll 46, you drop the high or you drop the lowest, and then because you want to make characters don't feel weak, so you're 46, you drop the lowest, add them together, and that's your stat. But if you want to give yourself an extra boost, the other option is you go ahead and do the 46, but you re-roll all ones. So now you're really getting some really good stats.
yeah,
Or do you want a really unfair game, like a brutally hard game? Just roll 3d6 and take whatever you get. So like there's options right there listed that tells you, do you
yeah,
want a balanced game? Do you want to be a hero, or do you want to basically barely survive?
yeah,
How do you want to play?
yeah. Yeah, and that's a great way to do game design, because the players can tone their challenging and find like the flow state. They already talk about find the flow stage, which is like in the limits of the difficulty the player are comfortable with. So giving options for the group to set the difficulty on how challenging the game can be, it can be very good. And it's something that I always thought about. Some of the games I like in video games have the nightmare mode. I always wanted to have a game that, oh yeah, you can play on nightmare mode. All monsters have max hit points and stuff like this. That could be fun too. Yeah,
It would. I mean, it'd be super
yeah,
fun. And I think that there's room in. I get inspired by game design all the time. I steal little pieces that I think are neat from video games and stick them right back into TTRPGs, which is funny because I think we're coming full circle. Because I remember hearing
yeah,
somewhere that a lot of the RPGs were inspired by the old school TTRPGs, and now I'm just reversing it. So
yeah,
I love doing stuff like that where I see this cool idea in a video game, and I'm like, okay, how do I make that work in a TTRPG? And that's one of those things where like
yeah,
maybe the monsters have flexible stat pools, and like here's the recommended setting, but here's the unfair setting. So I think that there's
yeah,
absolutely room for that kind of design, and I love it. I get excited about it because it really gives you that freedom. What kind of game do you want to play, guys? Like, we're playing this game, but like at what difficulty, with what
yeah,
tone? Like, let's discuss what's everybody
yeah.
feeling really good about, and let's do it.
Yeah. That's mostly what session zero is about, right?
Mhm.
Setting expectations and telling, oh, this is a game about this. These are the themes. We're gonna be challenging, or it's not gonna be challenging. It's gonna be more about enjoying, the journey or something. So it's always important to set this right so the group knows what they're getting into. You're not playing like a campaign in the dark sun and you create a pirate, So yeah,
Session zero is actually like my favorite thing. I love session zero. I love when everybody's just sitting together talking about what they want to do and what's inspiring them
yeah,
about the particular setting we're about to jump to. We just jumped into a game. We just jumped into Mouse Ritter, and just out of the gates, the whole group is like, okay, so like who I want to be siblings with you, and we're gonna do this thing over here. And this is all cool stuff that like is so good for a session zero that sometimes you don't get the opportunity to. If you all made a character and
yeah,
you show up at the table, like, is there really a lot of opportunity for like, oh no, I tailored this character to be like your twin or something? And that's a lot of fun in play. So I love
yeah.
session zero. I love that ability to be like weird and creative. And for my group, it's always just like hanging out and like we're talking about the game and we're BSing, and it's a really nice way to connect
Yeah.
as friends
Mm.
while preparing for a game. But like it's
Yeah,
I don't know,
you're
it's a little bit
getting the
different.
mood of the game. You're getting to the
Yeah,
mood of it, like the ritual you do before you do your work. You're getting to the mood
exactly.
of the game. Everybody gets in the same page, and then we can begin this.
It's so good. Some games, I mean, some games don't require that. I remember we played oh goodness, what was it called? I'm gonna mess this up because I'm really, really bad with remembering titles and names. It's like my thing. It was like The Zone or something. It's like this online game where you can actually just jump straight into it. And it's really simple rules. And it was, we didn't plan for it or anything. We just jumped in and started playing. Some games actually invite you to do that, and that
Yeah,
was one of them.
yeah.
And I probably, do you remember that? Was it The Zone? Oh, it was The Zone. Good. I just confirmed with my partner. So it was The Zone, and it
Okay,
was
this
so
zone.
good.
Yeah.
So not everything needs a session zero, especially if you know your group. But when you're gonna play a bigger game, man, I love session zero. It's my favorite episode. We're not even playing yet.
Yeah. Yeah. How is this the zone? What's the deal with it? Why it doesn't need assistance zero? It's like straightforward,
Yeah,
or
it's only got like it's only got like a couple mechanics, like some it's actually played in a browser, so it gives you some prompts as to what's going on, and it's mostly driven by the characters because you can move on when you're ready to move on, with a couple of exceptions because you guys are getting iced along the way. Like I don't think anybody makes it out of the zone alive, so it's just you're trying to figure out who dies first. So
yeah,
it's exceptionally
yeah,
fun, and and a lot of it's driven by somebody will say, and then what happened, and like you have to fill it in,
mm,
and it's
yeah.
it's
So
very
you
improvisational.
you you're building the contest as you play, right? So it's a session zero that you play. You're building what is happening, and it ends there. So yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, Yeah, I recommend everybody check it out. It's actually really, really fun, especially as a one shot, because again, you're all dead. You're all going to die. So horrible
Yeah.
things are going to happen to you along the way. And if you're like me and you treat it like a beer and chips game, that's a little bit lighthearted and
Yeah.
fun. It's just, you're not really trying to beat the game. You're just trying to live longer than your friends.
Or trying to figure out how you're dying and in
Yeah.
what circumstance. And that
Mhm.
can be a lot of fun too.
It is. It is. It's super fun.
Navi, what would you say is like the weirdest and favorite part of your work and the job that you do as a creator?
Oh no. Weirdest. Um, okay, my
Maybe
favorite
coming up
part.
with idea. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to skip the weirdest part because I'm not sure
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
But my favorite part is just when somebody gets what you're trying to do, right? Because when you put something out there, you're gonna get a cornucopia, myriad of different opinions and thoughts and things. And some people are very mean in their vocalizing of their opinions. But you get those people who understood what you were going for and they're genuinely
Yeah.
excited about what you did.
Yeah.
And there's nothing cooler than that. There's nothing cooler than somebody that like doesn't really even know me as a person and just decides to reach out and let me know like how excited they were to play the game or
Yeah.
how many sessions they've gotten into the game. And like, I love that. That's my favorite part. My favorite part is people enjoying the games. I hope
Yeah.
I write games because I think they're fun, and when other people are like, "Yeah, this is super fun," that's the most fun part.
It's very
Uh,
rewarding, right?
it is, and
It
I would try
is.
so hard to think of something that's weird, that's not super being nitpicky, because I think the reverse side of that I do think is weird is when people think that games are like these literary pursuits that must be completely unique and standalone and have like all like it can't be fun. It must be full of great ideas, and they're really critical
Oh
of
yeah.
games that are just
Yeah.
supposed to be fun. It was just a
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. It can be a lot of things, but it can be just beer and pretzels and uh,
Oh no,
just
that's
having
right.
fun, and it can be very philosophical. I have a
Mhm.
game inspired by philosophy and stoicism. It's gonna be called In Search of Happiness, and has to do with my own struggle with anxiety and my own life and stuff.
Mhm.
And but I have Cosmos Sour too. It's about dinosaurs, space rangers kicking
I love that.
butts in space.
Mhm.
It can be both. You don't have to take everything so seriously, and
Mhm.
and, and even the silly games uh, teach you something and have an importance. So
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I,
we don't
I
have to
I
take everything
agree.
so serious, right? Yeah,
But on the other hand, though, I have seen people make games that were profoundly deep, or they tapped
yeah,
into maybe
personal stuff.
upsetting. Yeah, like
Yeah,
I read through a gothic game that was called Annalise, and it seemed really interesting to me. But
yeah,
there's very much this pervasive kind of dark character looming over them all, and it's very figurative because it's proper gothic, which is what I loved about it, honestly. But it was I think that was like a very unique cerebral kind of like if I was going to go, oh, a game that's literary or whatever, I would actually, there's some that I would point to as being exceptional in the depth that they bring. But I think not always, but often I tend toward like, what's going to be really fun. I don't take things too
uh,
serious. Like Dead Belt is capitalism
yeah.
killing you in space. That's the kind of game that comes out of my head.
Yeah, and it's very serious in a way. It has critiques, it has some thoughts, some philosophy, some values in there. But we
Mhm.
we revolve around that in fun things, like even in
Uh-huh.
Cosmosaurus, one of the main factions of villains are slime bankers. So
Yeah.
there's some messages in there hidden in just playing fun, and it's part of it, and it's self-expression, right? Our games
Mhm.
are part of it's art. We're putting our values, some of our thoughts, some of our emotions in there. So
Mhm.
yeah,
That's, yeah, very true.
yeah.
We definitely
Have
have
you?
a couple emotional games. Like if you've like Skyworthy is a journaling game, and that one was actually written almost entirely by Shawn because of his experience as a military aviator. So I can't even read the prompts without crying. So like that was a deep and emotional one. So they're there for sure. I think I'm just kind of talking on my general style because with that one I was very much just support. Like he had this great game, and I really just did the developmental editing and kind of like pointed it and like that kind of thing, and then the layout. So I was a little bit more hands off than usual on that one in particular, and that one was very packed with emotion. So you can do it all. It can be done. I just
Yeah,
tend
yeah,
towards
yeah,
beer and chips. I'm a little goofy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's something that I enjoy too. It's just something that really speak to us. We sometimes we can help to make something out of it, and
Hmm.
yeah,
We have a saying, laughing keeps the scars shallow. So, I kind of make
yeah,
light of heavy situations because I think it makes it a little bit more palatable for me. So,
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
let's. I have a dark sense of humor, and
I
I think that comes through.
yeah, I love that too because if you can laugh about the horrible things that happen to you, it's much easier to deal with stressful situations that comes through day by day, and yeah, sometimes we suffer a lot in our thoughts and not necessarily
Hmm.
what's really ever happening. So I have anxiety, so these are like stoicism thoughts, so that's a lot of stuff that I read, and like we suffer more in thoughts than in reality. So yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in the same boat. Like lifelong anxiety, very standard like childhood trauma nonsense, right?
yeah,
So like I don't even know what a brain without anxiety looks like. I sometimes I tend to I have like agoraphobia and things like that. So like I have to really work myself up and take like a lot of CBD and like psych myself up to walk outside my door. So yeah, like I
yeah,
know that in your head, it's in your head, but it's so real because it turns out that your perception is your reality. It might not be reality to everyone, but it's your reality, and so heavy and loud in there sometimes that like what
yeah,
you need to do, what you should do, and like you just can't get past it. Can't get past the
yeah,
mustard plug.
yeah, and it keeps repeating in our
Hmm.
head. And you talk about CBD, and that stuff helps us bring our thoughts a little bit down. I
Hmm.
always say this. That's anxiety makes me feel like I am this cloud of thoughts, just puppeting this meat puppet around, and this stuff helps me get back to my body again and be present here. So, yeah,
Oh man, that's a perfect analogy. That's amazing because that's what it is. It sounds like there's so much chaos and
yeah,
loudness up there, and so many things going
yeah.
on at the same time. And then you take,
You're not here. Like
yeah,
your body is here, but you're here. You're not.
I'm in like 10,000
You know.
places right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to be very careful because sometimes you're with the people you love. You want to be near them, but your mind is it's somewhere else. And yeah,
Yes. I've been very open with my kids, and we have great conversations because like that's important for them to know that like,
yeah,
mommy's a little bit weird. I got a lot of anxiety. I have, I guess, a lot of antisocial kind of traits where like I'm more likely to super hyper focus on a project, and like I'll forget to drink water for like 8 hours. So I'm just doing this thing and I'm not
yeah,
always paying attention to what's going on around me. And but my entire family, they understand, they're super supportive because we talk about it, and like humans are
yeah,
all kind of their own individuals, and we have to treat everybody like we
yeah,
can meet everybody at their own level. You can't expect everybody to behave the same. So I tell them all the
yeah.
time that like, yes, my behavior is strange, kids, I'm sorry. But humans are humans, and you get what you get.
Well, that's something I say to my kids too. That everybody is doing their best, even though their best might be something bad for you, but they're really trying. Nobody wakes up and say, "Oh, my kid's name is Pablo," and I say nobody wakes up and say, "Oh, today I'm gonna screw up with Pablo's day." That
Yeah.
doesn't happen. They're not thinking about it. They're having their own worries. They're trying to hush to get something, and
Hmm.
and yeah, it was bad for you, but try to have some empathy. Maybe like we're driving, so someone cuts us and we get angry, and then we are saying, oh, they're so bad. But well, maybe they're like trying to hush because a loved one is in the hospital and is going through something. We always assume bad, but why
Mhm.
not? Why can't we assume good? Even if we're wrong, doesn't it make us feel a little bit better? You know?
It does. That's actually
Yeah.
something that I do regularly. It's kind of another one of those things whenever somebody's, like sometimes you're in a public space and somebody being really snappy with you. Like my first thought is always, wow, they must be having a really bad day. And that
Yeah.
generally immediately
Yeah.
makes me nicer. I'm like, hold
Yeah.
on, let me
Yeah.
try to, let
Yeah.
me not be the reason this person
It
is having
is.
such a terrible
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. And something that I always think too is that when those people said the super bad things like without any justification, they're saying much more about themselves or what they're going through. They're going through something bad. Then they're
Mhm.
really talking about us, So, but in the
Absolutely.
moment is right. In the moment is very hard, right? To do the separation. Like,
Sometimes, like
yeah,
every once
yeah,
in a while, somebody's so
yeah,
offensive that you're like,
yeah,
nope, nope,
yeah,
Zen, find my inner peace. I don't
yeah.
need to react to this. I don't have to
Yeah.
react to this.
And especially in the internet, sometimes it's better not to react because I love this book called Still Like an Artist, and they say that the best thing you can do for people that are attacking you or your enemies, it's just ignore because they will go away. If people just, I don't
Mhm.
know, sometimes we give so much attention to the bad stuff, and the bad stuff gets the algorithm, like Twitter. Twitter is the
Oh, it
best example of it.
loves that.
People make constructive, beautiful things, things that build and make a good impact, and they reach some people.
Mhm.
But when they post about bad stuff, bad actors, uh, some very polemic, something bad, it will blow away and it would reach so much people. Imagine if you could get, a thread of your game, like explaining the process and how it can, teach young designers how to make something reach as much as a thread about something that said something bad or in a game that has a phrase, and it won't help
Yeah.
anybody, but it's reached so much more people.
Yeah,
and
no,
and
that the bird algorithm in particularly really does love controversy. We joke about it all the time over here. I'm always like, look, if we're going to advertise something new, make sure that you insult Dungeons and Dragons first. That'll open up the floodgates.
yeah uh,
And I mean, it's mostly a joke, but it's also really true. Anytime that like Shawn says
yeah
something maybe scathing or disagreeable about D&D, man, it blows up. So many views, so many comments, everybody's talking about it, so many quote tweets and all this. Oh man, it's wild. And like we're not like it's just a side comment. Like we make indie games, and now we got all
yeah
this action going on with the D&D folks, and it's not super helpful. But that's the algorithm loves discourse. They want to see you
yeah
fighting about stuff. I hate that.
yeah
I noticed on Threads that's one of the things I liked about Threads. Threads has a much kinder tone because it turns out that if somebody comments on your post, there's an option that is mute for everyone. So if somebody
hmm
comes trying to start stuff on your
yeah
post, you can actually just shut it down and nobody has to look at it and it's gone. So it really does
yeah
change the entire tone of how people engage on that platform because you don't have to give them air. They're not. No one is
yeah
entitled to be able to say whatever they want in your space. I like that. I think that's nice because it does make people a little bit kinder, a little bit nicer.
yeah
Hello, weirdos. This is Diogo Nogueira, and I'm back with a word from our sponsors. Me. I just released a new game called Cosmosaurus, in which you play a dinosaur space ranger who protects the galaxy from evil threats such as slime bankers, undead pirates, and Cosmosaurus from a void dimension. It's a game with a runes-light system inspired by Forged in the Dark and Lasers and Feelings. It comes with a bunch of tables for you to generate content for it. If you know my games, they're really easy to play and they have tools to help you improvise and play with low prep. It's an ideal game for one-shots, short campaigns, and introducing new people to the hobby, and it's a really perfect family game. I play with my kids all the time. It's a game inspired by Saturday morning cartoons. It's really well illustrated. by Lucas Kowalski from Poland, and with a great layout by Guilherme Gontijo. It's a really fun game. You should check it out on Drive-Thru-RPG, itch.io, or exclusively in print on exaltedfurner.com. I have many other games there, check them out. All the links are in the show notes, so click there. And let's get back to Weird with our chat.
Although sometimes what drives the engagement, as you said, is really the polemic. So maybe if you mute, it won't drive as much engagement. But for me, I think that's healthier. I try to avoid, because people, there's some really, I don't know, out of their way people that will say and will do some really strange stuff. So yeah, I avoid even make side comments about D&D. You know, I don't play more than D&D. D&D 5. I try to get the books, but it's not really something for me. But I try to avoid talking. But you saying, "Oh, D&D is not something for me," I bet someone will go up there and start screaming at you.
You just don't understand it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's something I hate when people, when you say your experiences. Oh yeah, I play this and I don't like it, and people say your experience is invalid, and it's good. It's just that you don't know how to have one experience. I hate that. Like with
I hate that so much.
Electronic music. That's something that makes me anxious sometimes. No, that dun, dun, it's very very fast, and for me to have anxiety, I feel this in my chest, and I talk to our friend and say, "Oh, you don't like it because you didn't took the right drug or something, wasn't in the mood." No, I really don't like. I have the people cannot like this. It's not obligatory. It's not perfect. I don't understand how people say, "Oh, you don't understand the game." People can not like this. It's not a perfect game.
Yeah, with everything. I always like to drum up drama, because every once in a while I like let slip that, like, so usually when I'm like, hey, I'm looking for a game recommendation or whatever, and then I kind of like let it slip that, like, I don't really like PBTA games. That's like my dark secret. And man, when I say that, and I say that while being honest, like, I play a lot of them. I've tried a lot of them out. I even really liked a couple of them. I thought Masks was really cute and fun for a short campaign. It's just not generally my favorite play loop, and I love how incendiary it is in the indie scene to say you don't like PBTA, man. People's heads, they explode. How could you? Forge in the Dark is just PBTA, and I'm like, yes, but shares DNA.
Yeah. Like, we share DNAs with butterflies. We're not butterflies,
I love that. It's for next time that's brought up, right?
I like Forge in the Dark. I have the same problem with PBTA, but I don't say it on Twitter. I just say it on my podcast, because we just have like 3 listeners, so it's great.
Safe space, gotcha.
Yeah.
Wait until you blow up, and then they're going to be lining up talking about how bad you are for not liking PBTA.
But I like many of the designers from PBTA. I don't like playing PBTA, but I recognize many of the good things PBTA brought to the table and taught other games. And even if I stole some things from it. The problem I have with PBTA is like everything is a move, and you have to consult every move. So it's like, wasn't this supposed to be simple? I have to, every time people do something, I have to look at that exact move.
Yes, that is my problem. I'm like, okay, here's what I want to do, right? So I'll tell you, here's what I want to do. I'm looking at my moves, and I'm like, which one of these moves sounds like what I'm trying to do?
Yeah. And they say it's fiction first. Yeah, it's fiction first, but then you have to find the damn move to do the fiction, and sometimes you can't. And there is this game called Off-World that is kind of sci-fi, that is based on PBTA, but it's way more open-ended. So you don't have a list of moves, just that generic move. Because, come on, moves are not more than rules. And one thing that I like to say is that I feel PBTA like D&D 4th edition without a grid, and the moves are just the powers. You have daily powers, encounter powers. For me, it's the same thing, you know.
It's
And
yeah, because
that's
it's
what
so
I had a
restrictive.
problem with it, because
Hmm.
the rules are out there in front of the players. The players sometimes, I know it says fiction first, but having all the moves in your character sheet makes the player don't think about the fiction. They look at the sheet and try to find a solution there instead of finding the solution, in the game itself.
Hmm.
That's my grief with it.
Yeah.
You know?
So same thing, and I understand like they they want you to play a character a certain way. It's meant to be very emulative. A lot of PBTA games are
Yeah,
emulating something specific,
it
but
works perfectly for that. Yeah,
but I feel like you don't have to be so literal. Like
restrictive.
yeah,
Yeah.
like for instance, I'm a huge Sailor Moon fan. I made a quick zine game called Disaster Piece where it is my idea of a perfect Sailor Moon game, but without the IP, right? Because you have so much freedom, and it's built on the Forge in the Dark thing, and it is emulative. You are emulating that genre, and you can do it really well, but you have so much more freedom, and that's really my big thing. My complaint is that like there are ways to have emulate media. You don't have to do it this specific way, and there's a lot. And usually when people want to argue with me about like how I'm wrong for not liking it, they're always like, no, you don't understand. You have more freedom with the moves. And I'm like, I don't know what you mean. I don't see that. I don't feel that.
Yeah.
The moves are killing
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's sort of normal. I think that moves can work really well for some people that are really
Mm-hmm.
comfortable and find the exact move, and they like it so much because it simulates it so well. Some of the concepts and the scenes of the moves and characters and very archetypical, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you want to explore, want to have more freedom, wanna, you know, my main thing is I don't want to look at the book to see exactly the move and
What I
exactly
can
the
do.
results. That's
Yeah.
it. I don't want to stop the game to look at the exact wording of the result of the move. That's my main grief about it. And then,
Yep. I don't
for a game
remember
that's
the things
fiction
that I can
first, yeah,
do because there's
yeah,
this list of things that I can do. Anyways, makes that that's
yeah,
my thing.
yeah,
So that's my
yeah.
dirty secret that once again tattling on myself and waiting for the anger to flood in. Indie gamer doesn't like PBGA.
Yeah. Navi, what would you say was the weirdest game you ever played? Can be RPGs or it can be video games or board games or a game that really made you feel, wow, I haven't seen anything like this.
Wow, I played a lot of great games, but when you say weird, um, I have a small problem with RimWorld. RimWorld is a game, for those who don't know, where it's a colony builder, um, but it has a very, very, very large modding base. Like the player base that creates mods for this game is monstrous, and they change so many aspects of the game that like I always make like a joke of like, are you even playing RimWorld if you're not running at least 300 mods, right? Like I have to go through the process of like making sure all my mods are compatible like once a year because I'm trying to figure out which of my 300 mods is breaking the game. Like it's ridiculous, but I love it, and it's not only the weirdest game, but with every mod I add, it gets weirder and weirder. At,
I can imagine, yeah.
at some, I guess this
300
is
mods, that's a lot of mods, yeah.
I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, but we're talking about weird, right? There's a mod that I have that's called Monster Girls, and it adds these adorable little monster girls as wild animals to the game. So there's like little fox girls and little cow girls, but when you collect them and put them in your stable, you can milk them because it's a colony. So
Yeah,
this is the kind of
yeah,
this is
yeah.
how I spend my life.
Yeah,
Welcome to welcome to my world. I have so many hundreds of hours logged on this damn game milking little
yeah, well,
cowgirls. So that's my life. It's a very weird game, and it's
yeah, I
only gotten
imagine, yeah.
weirder. The last
I imagine
expansion. Good.
every one of the 300 ones being something weird and mixing all everything together is gonna be really really strange.
Yeah, there's like mods that make it so that you have better
Yeah,
surgery and
send
prosthetics.
screenshots. Yeah,
Oh,
send screenshots so
I
we can
will.
see this. Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's absolutely it's like it's super rudimentary. I think that's what actually makes it so inviting to people to mod it. The art style is
yeah,
so simplistic that I think anybody feels like they can they can
Feels
make
like a toy, so
sprites.
you can play
Yeah,
with it. Yeah.
yeah.
When
Anybody
a
can
game
play with them.
is yeah, when a game is super high end and super well made, you don't feel like you can mess it with it so much. But
Hmm.
that's why Minecraft and like some other games that have this more uh, whimsical or simpler graphics, it's so captivating because people feel like this is not just a game; this is a toy I can play with. I can
Hmm.
create my own stuff. I can create narratives with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, it's super accessible in that way, and I really love that about games where you see that they appreciate their player base and they welcome
yeah,
you making those changes to their game. Games like that are always like the most fun. Like I love games that are just like go ahead, go crazy because it was Skyrim was like that. Like, who doesn't run Skyrim without 5,000 mods, right? Maybe if you're playing on console, but like games that
yeah,
are like, hey, go ahead and make weird stuff. Like, it's very inviting, and then you're gonna be able to tailor the game to however you want to play because there's all these people making so many adjustments, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
I think that would be really cool to have in my game. And so I don't know,
yeah.
I love that. Most of the games that I have a ton of hours sunk into are games like that where you can personalize them and mess with them in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
tons of
and that's
hours.
even something we can try to think about in RPGs. How would mods work with RPGs? We can think about making a games that allow mods, and
Hmm.
and mods are a great thing because they create a community. Because if you have a game that allow mods, they will start to form a community of people creating those mods, people that consume those mods, people that rank and review those mods. So you build an ecosystem for your game and for your community. So that's something maybe as tabletop game designer we can think about how can we foster this kind of playability for games for the community, right?
No, you know what? That is something that I think about a lot because I think it's a missed opportunity. It's something that we don't do a lot as indie designers. We really dropped the ball on this one, I think. If you think, like, let's go back to the Dragon game. Like, for some reason, it's on top of my head right now. I don't know why. I was invited to a game tonight and I was like, I got a podcast to go to because Shawn won't run it for me anymore. But, anyways, so it's on the top of my head right now. But thinking about D&D, they built this huge community by creating content that is very flexible and getting this big community that wants to make stuff for their game. You can almost think of all that, like all that D&D content of like DM's Guild. You can almost think of that as mods. Once again, you can do almost anything with the game
Yeah,
because somebody has already made something for it. And it's really, I mean, from even like it's smart all the way around because you can give people more of what they already want. They're already playing the game, so like, and you don't have to do any extra work to do it. And it's a
yeah,
big missed opportunity for indies because indies kind of shy away from that. They kind of put out a game, and that's it, right? That's the final. That's it, and that's all you're getting, and they're done, and they walk away. And it's exciting when they go a little bit further, even just like, okay, we'll do a game jam so that people know I want you to make weird stuff for this game.
yeah,
I love game jams. I've made all kinds of stuff for other people's games just because they explicitly said, I'm making a jam so you can make stuff for my game. And I'm like, that sounds like a great idea. So I think that that's something that more people really should do. You should have more material supporting individual games because it grows the community and it gives people more stuff to play with. And that's really fun and exciting. And seeing other people
yeah,
spin on my stuff always makes me happy.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, that makes me wanna try to do maybe a Cosmosaurus jam and see what people
Yes,
can come up with a
I will
galaxy.
be
Yeah, that
there.
could be fun. Yeah.
That'd be great.
Navi, now we're getting into more personal and more whimsical questions. So the first thing I would like to ask you is about maybe some weird experiences you might have had. Have you ever had an experience with any kind of altered state of awareness, being meditation, hypnosis, or even psychedelics, or like lucid dreaming, anything like this?
Oh boy. Um, so one time in my early 20s, I was very irresponsible. Young people, do not listen to this part. Turn off the speakers for about 30 seconds. So I was on shrooms and we were driving through the backwoods of like Naples, Florida. And my friend who was driving was sober because we were at least a little responsible, right? So my friend was sober and driving, but was intentionally goofing around because he knew that I was was in the back seat, not so he's driving like driving like a crazy person again on a back road. It was safe. Nobody was going to get hurt. Well, if we drove into a ditch, we might have got hurt, but nobody else was going to get hurt by our stupidity. So, he's driving like a crazy person, and like everyone in the car that's sober was like screaming, "Stop! It hurts!" because they're getting jerked around. But like when you're altered, you're kind of like you're like Jello. So like I was fine, but we're going, and I look over into the stand of trees, and they they all look like tree ants. Kind of from like Lord of the Rings. They all have like faces and they're all like looking at me. They're very judgmental, by the way. They had some opinionated faces. but that was my big thing with psychedelics, was looking over and seeing judgmental tree ants just looking at me like,
wow,
you're making bad choices over there.
you're reaching their friends, Yeah.
Sorry.
That was your own experience of psychedelics in the 20s, that you saw that, or have you ever tried as an adult in a safer space instead of like running in the streets?
Instead of being a ridiculous child.
No,
I
well, I mean, we all were ridiculous childs, right? I mean,
I hope so.
I only took mushrooms after being an adult, but I did stupid things drunk. That happens, I think.
No, that was really the only. I think that was the only time with that kind of thing. I have like weird stories with like altered perception, but they're not having to do with like any out exterior influences. So that's weird stuff. But that was the only time that like I really just straight up like did something where I started seeing things, and what my brain, it's really interesting because like of all the things that could have happened, I've seen my friends freak out and like they're saying scary things or whatever, but of all the things that I could have seen, like I saw tree ants. That's what I saw. So, take that however you want. But forest spirits is where apparently my soul goes when I'm altered.
But you mentioned having other states of our altered states of awareness. Can you talk a little bit about these other experiences you had and how?
Okay, it's gonna get a little bit weird, so you got to come with me on this. Okay.
Of course.
So,
that's where we're here.
I was in my early 20s, and I was walking down a hallway, and a young man, a little bit older than me, I'd never seen before, was walking toward me, right? So we're getting ready to pass each other. And as he got closer, it's very hard for me to explain this, but it was like I could see him and I could see the hallway in front of me. But at the same time, like somehow, it's very hard to explain. I could see as clear as day 2 different images happening in my head at the same time. So I'm walking past him, and as he's passing me, I see everything. Like I said, I could see him and I could see the hallway. Everything's fine. But at the same time, in another image simultaneously, I see explosions. I see fire. I see like chaos. And I'm like, like it was boggling. It was a very strange moment, because it was nothing I'd ever experienced in my life. And really, I've never experienced anything quite that severe since. But I clearly like saw 2 images at once, and it was an entire scene. And I was like, wild. And you a couple seconds and then blink and it's gone. And I'm like, well, that's really weird. Wow. So anyways, later on, because I'm going to school with this guy, I find out that like before he had just got finished contracting with, I think it was BlackRock or something. So he was basically doing mercenary work. And I didn't bother to tell him that when I saw him, I saw explosions and chaos and whatnot, but it was very bizarre. It was just like he walked past me, and for some reason something clicked, and I saw as clear as day mayhem. And like something told me this was not a good person to be around. So like it was a good warning right there. But I found out later that so he had been doing mercenary work prior to that. So that was
Has this ever happened another time?
Okay, one thing happened
with other people.
No. I'm not like super psychic or anything like that. Like I don't consider. But like it was something that happened, and obviously there was maybe some kind of reason for it, some kind of foundation there, right? Because it turns out not really a great guy, and I didn't know him before that. And that was my first time, walking past him. So that was just a weird one. But the other one, and this one is actually worrisome, just happened just last week because I was standing in the bathroom and the bathroom around me very briefly looked like it was flooding with smoke. And we were in a very old house. So my first thought is, oh, maybe an electrical fire, something caught fire. I need to run down there and with the, get the fire extinguisher and put it out. Old house, nothing scares me, right? You're prepared for this kind of stuff. So I'm looking and smoke, and then I blink and clear my eyes, and there's nothing in the room with me. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. And I'm sniffing. Like, wait, I don't even smell smoke. What the hell? So I run out and I tell Shawn, go to the bathroom. I swear I'm not being weird. Go to the bathroom and smell. tell me if you smell smoke. And he didn't smell anything either. So that was really bizarre. So after
Go
that,
to the bathroom smell is great. Yeah.
Right? That takes trust in a relationship.
Yeah.
So after that, I've been very, very careful and strict about like, okay, no fire hazards in the house, kids. Everybody unplug their weird stuff before bed. So we'll see. Hopefully that was nothing.
Yeah. Well, asking about other supernatural stuff, weird experiences. Have you ever? Do you believe in ghosts, and have you ever seen or had an experience with ghosts?
Man, I've had so many experiences with ghosts that I think that, and I just got done saying I'm not psychic. I swear I'm not psychic, but I've had so many experiences with ghosts that I think that people think I'm full of shit at this point. And I promise I don't have a good enough memory to lie. I could never keep it straight in my head. But like the house we're in right now, they told us it was haunted when we moved in. They're like, oh, there's a ghost named Rosie and she likes flowers. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of cute.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I moved in and at first I didn't really notice anything. Every once in a while, something would like make a noise. And I'm like, it's a really old house though. I could be like, anything can happen in an old house.
Yeah.
But not too long ago, the way our house is set up is it's actually 3 floors with an apartment on each floor. So we just bought the whole thing, right? And I gave my dad the top floor unit. So he's up in the attic unit. And sometimes he comes down into the second floor unit because it has much better plumbing. This is a very old house and the top floors don't have the greatest plumbing, right? So he'll come down. So I can usually hear him walking around on the ceiling because it's hardwood floors and not good insulation. So whenever I hear noise up there, I always assume, oh, it's just my dad. Well, not too long ago, a few months back, I heard that thump, 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 thump of, obviously walking across the floor. And I'm like, that's really loud. And then, Shawn's like, your dad's at work. Okay, well, I guess we have to go upstairs and see if there's an intruder. But the door was locked and there was nothing up there. So it makes you wonder how many of those footsteps were actually hit. So that one's this house, and it's a little bit more tame because whatever's here doesn't seem to be. But one time, this is the good one, I lived in an apartment. You don't expect an apartment to be haunted, but this one's bad. So I moved into this little apartment, and it was so terrifying that I broke my lease and moved out within 3 months.
Wow.
And it's expensive to break a lease, especially when you're a broke kid.
Yeah, so, I broke once. I regret it. Yeah.
They really hit you hard. They take your deposit. They charge you extra. Oh my God.
You try to negotiate. No, I will leave furniture. Let's reduce this. Mm-hmm. They know you have to leave. So they're no, we'll reduce anything.
Yeah, here they'll charge you like 2 extra months rent for breaking your lease. Oh man, some places are such sticklers that they'll actually make you pay out the remainder of your entire lease. Fortunately, this wasn't one of those places. This was one of the places where it was 2 months, but that was still a ton of money, 2 months of rent on top of, but that's how scary this house was. So like a couple of the worst things that happened in there. One time I was sitting on a phone talking to my friend, and this sound happened inside the apartment, and I cannot define it. I couldn't tell you exactly what it sounded like, besides like a deep, guttural, very visceral, angry growl, and so loud it was resonating through the entire apartment. The person on the other end of my line said, "What the hell was that?" Like they could hear it through the phone, and I was just looking around like, I don't know what that was. So that happened, and not too long before that, it had started off strange, but not so angry, right? It seemed to ramp up, and that's why I got scared and broke my lease, because it was getting more and more aggressive. So before that, actually, the first really weird thing that had happened was I was sitting at my computer, and my like nothing was on, no noise, no sound or anything like that. Something started, like a voice, a male voice started speaking through my speaker, and it set off such huge alarm bells that I panicked. I can't even tell you what it said. I knew it was speaking in English. I know that it was
Wow.
words, but I was so terrified at the time when the sound came out very loudly at me that I freaked. I freaked out. I jumped up and ran out of the room as this thing was talking. And I was like, that's really weird. And then not long later, the growl. And then finally, what I made me break the lease was I was sleeping, and all of a sudden I had a pug, and he was my baby. He slept with me. He went everywhere with me. Slept on my bed. So I was asleep. I wake up because Otis, of course I named him Otis because of the movie. He is losing his mind. He's on the edge of the bed. His hackles are raised. He's growling and freaking out like he needs to defend me from something. He's losing his mind. And I'm on the bed while he's
You
freaking
can see
out.
nothing.
And it's dark. And I'm like, oh shit. I don't want it. Because like what could set him off
Goosebumps.
so badly, right? So, oh my gosh, I was alone. I was home alone, so I was absolutely
Yeah.
like, oh no. And what was weird though is because the feeling in the apartment was so oppressive and so much weird stuff had already happened in the apartment, I didn't think for a single moment that there was an intruder in the house. Like I knew what he was mad
Yeah.
at, and I didn't want any part of it. I pulled the blanket up over my head like a baby, like a child. I threw the blanket over my head and I was like, nope, Otis, stop making noise. Just ignore it. Just And after that,
I
I
got
broke my lease.
goosebumps here. It's scary stuff. Yeah.
To hell with
Wow.
that place.
Wow. Yeah.
So that was the weird one. That was bad.
I'm kind of curious. Like, maybe we know anybody that lives there now that we can ask if they saw anything. Like, wow.
Oh gosh,
Like, yeah. I want to hear
wish I
more
remember-
stories about this ghost. I mean,
Who
it's
else has
terrible.
been
I
in
don't
that
want you to
horrifying
go.
apartment?
Yeah. I don't want you to go back there, but I kind of want to know. Oh, maybe he spoke with someone else. I don't know.
Right? Like, hopefully he didn't save it all for me. Like, I figure whatever was
Yeah.
there must have just been pervasive because it
Yeah.
started really fast. As soon as I moved in, weird
Yeah.
stuff was happening, and in front of other people. That's how I know that I wasn't going crazy, because other people were like, "What is
Yeah.
going on? Like, what was that noise, or what just happened?" So, yeah, it was bizarre. But when it made my dog that scared in the middle of the night, I was like, "That's it. I'm done. No more."
Yeah, and people always say that the dogs have this instinct to think the spirits like animals, and
Mhm.
yeah, I've seen my parents had dogs and like barking at strange empty places, and then people say that there was something. We'd travel to this house in the country here in Brazil that had all these ghost stories, and our dogs would, like, in some specific rooms, they would get really strange, and yeah.
Yeah, no, what I honestly, I believe it. I buy into it because I mean, I've seen it firsthand, right? With the just
Yeah.
acting or doing things that they never did before. Because even before that bed thing, like the Otis was, as soon as we moved in, he would try and like jump up the wall sometimes, like he was trying to get something that was scurrying up the wall. I don't know how to explain it. Almost like when you put a laser light on the wall and a cat goes after it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that wasn't a normal behavior for him. That's not something that he ever did. But all of a sudden when we moved in, like he was trying really hard to climb the walls to get at something. And that was really bizarre. So like, I honestly believe he knew something was there. Like he saw something that I couldn't see.
Yeah.
Thank God. I don't want to see it. I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Yeah. And what about aliens? Do you believe in aliens? Have you ever seen anything, a UFO or anything
Wait,
like this?
I have the whole I want to believe or I want to leave thing going on. I believe in aliens in the very abstract. I believe that with the size of the universe, it is inevitable that there are other intelligent beings, maybe even other spacefaring intelligent beings. I just have a very hard time believing that intelligent spacefaring beings would bother with Earth. I feel like there's no way we're not the insane asylum of the world. The things that we do to
Yeah.
each other, the way that we behave. I wouldn't stop here for gas if I was an
Yeah.
alien. So I believe in aliens. I believe they're smart enough not to come here.
Not
But
to bother,
that's
but yeah. Yeah.
that's my opinion on that. I don't think they're here amongst us for sure. I think they're like, no, don't stop there for gas.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Wow, you went to Earth. Wow, you. Yeah. You stop it. Oh, hey, don't talk to him. He went to Earth. Maybe he caught something, you know.
Exactly. Like, got a quarantine. There's a whole
Yeah, quarantine. Yeah,
precautions.
yeah. That's true. Yeah. And what? How about spirituality or religion or some kind of philosophy? Something that maybe helps you guide you through the day, through your life, through the tough moments. Do you have anything that you hold on to teach
Yeah.
you
So
values and stuff?
I'm I'm a little woo woo, I think is the word. I was raised in multi like multiple religions because my grandmother was very much a bog standard like Christian. She even went to like a mega church, and I used to go with her on Sundays just to be supportive and get her out of the house and spend time with her doing what she enjoyed doing. So I would go with her to the mega church, and then when I would visit my biological father in during the summers rather, he was a Mormon. And as strange as Mormons are, I actually really enjoyed the Mormon culture because the people are extremely kind and very welcoming, and everything is a big family. But the religion itself is really weird. The people are delightful, but the religion is very weird. And we don't even have to get into that they are clearly a religion that kind of like women are lesser than in that particular religion. Like you have to stay in your husband's good graces to make sure you get to heaven type of
Yeah.
thing. So strange religion, but wonderful people. I never had a single bad experience with the people there. So I actually enjoyed my time with the Church of Latter-day Saints. But I've always been very open-minded. So, moving on, getting older, developing my own thoughts and tastes and things, I've really kind of come to this position where like, I believe in God. I believe in higher powers. I believe in an afterlife and spirits. And I believe in all of these things. I don't like the way that they are pushed on me with religious views. I don't like when it's canned by a human and fed to me and told me I have to believe exactly this way, otherwise it doesn't count. So I have my own
Yeah.
kind of personal relationship with God, and I can absolutely, again, accompany an older family member or whatever to church and feel perfectly comfortable. It doesn't bother me at all. I don't feel like the need to be confrontational or argue my point of view. I'm very quiet about it, but I definitely do have my own thing going on. Like one of my favorite, it's not even a scripture, it's an African proverb that I love, and it's, when you pray, move your feet. And I love that. I think that's beautiful. It's like, yeah, pray, but try to get stuff done, and I think that kind of encapsulates my religious view. It's like, I definitely know that I know in my heart, for me, that there are other things, but I'm very focused on doing what I can do at the level that I'm at, with a squishy flesh body. What can I actually accomplish? What can I do? That's kind of how I view spirituality, through that lens of like, yeah, it's there, but it's not my driving or guiding force. It's very much just a feeling and a belief that like I'm not alone and this is not all for nothing. This is not superfluous or whatever. But I don't have that other drive to like connect with people with a specific unified religion and join the circle and whatnot. Just because sometimes it goes off the rails and I'm so opinionated and I have so many thoughts and I have so much pushback, and they always, well, you have to have faith. And I'm like, I got faith, but I don't think that what you're saying is good or healthy or meant to be construed that way or even read properly. I don't even think that's what the original thing meant. And I get really bunched up about those things. So I'm not good for that kind of environment for myself.
Yeah, I totally understand. And then as someone that grew up religiously too in Catholic, I went to Catholic school. My Afterwards, my parents like changed to this Japanese religion, and we had an altar in our home, in their home actually, that people had to come from Japan like to bless the place and stuff like this.
Mhm.
Uh, but as I said, like as I get older, I get my own sense of, what's important, values. I nowadays I'm an atheist, but I still value a lot of the connected and values in philosophy that have a lot to do with Christianity because of Stoicism and Christianity kind of were really strong in Rome back then, and so they have
Mhm.
something common, and the upbringing is there. So some of that stuff is still sticks to me. Uh,
Mhm.
but I was curious about about the teachings and philosophy and maybe values that you learned through those religions. Did any of them stick to you in some way, and something that remembered and helped you in different times, or it's mainly about you know uh, the belief you have in God or something? Because you said that something that separated you from the religions, that uh, the text and some of the teachings uh, are misinterpreted, and sometimes we pray, we religious people pray and say to do good, but they don't do the good, they just
Mhm.
pray and say all those things. So how
That's
do you
yeah.
relate with this? Yeah.
That really that hurts me the most actually out of anything. What hurts me the most is the not practicing what you preach, in the same way that
Yeah.
like my favorite proverb is the when you pray move your feet. It's the same thing. Just whatever it is you believe you
It
should be
doesn't help.
exercising.
Yeah, it doesn't help go to church every Sunday and then treat others like shit, like you were superior to them, right? Yeah.
Exactly, you should be kind to people. That's a like I have an admiration for saint like characters, and it doesn't matter what religion they come from, because you
Yeah.
can take Mother Teresa from, she was a Catholic saint. You can take Jesus, who's like the big Christian daddy, and they have, it's very similar teachings, right? It's all just be cool to each other, like be kind and take care of each other. And now you see that like people are pushing back. There's this sect of Christianity that's arising where they think that Jesus was too soft, and I'm like Chris, do you not know where the
What?
Christianity comes from? Like,
Yeah.
Jesus can't be too
What?
soft.
Yeah. What? Come on. Yeah.
What?
Oh
No, he
man.
meant what he said.
Yeah.
He said, like, whoever amongst you has no sins, cast the first stone. Like, plain as day. That's what he said. If you don't have any
Yeah.
faults, go ahead and
Yeah.
and accuse someone else. And like,
Yeah.
so that really gets to me.
It's so
The
bizarre.
hypocrisy.
Yeah.
The hypocrisy makes me so bitter and angry, because I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear
Yeah.
about how you're going to church every Sunday and donating to the church, but you turn around and do awful things. I have this problem with a certain number of my
Yeah.
family who is very much that way, very Christian, very tries to tell, wants to
Exactly.
save my soul, wants to save my children's souls, but at the same
Yeah.
time treats their child like garbage for being homosexual, right? Like, oh, you're going to burn in hell, and like you're exiled from the family, like horrible stuff. And I'm like, okay, we need to back it up here, because that's not Christ-like. We like, I'm not even a
Yeah.
Christian. We got to have a conversation about your view of Christianity. It drives me crazy. I can't deal with it.
Yeah. It's sad. Yeah. It's something that one of the things that drove me from religion was exactly like how many of the practitioners just you know they just read the book but they don't really practice. And yeah,
Hmm.
let's go for more whimsical fun and
Okay,
lighthearted
let's do
questions
it.
now, right? Yeah, yeah. So this is very important. Okay, so if you could have any superpower you
Oh,
could choose, what would you choose, and what would be the first thing you would do with it?
any superpower. Like, are there any limits on what we consider a superpower?
No, anything you can imagine, like a power, ability. It can be magic. It can be, I don't know.
Okay. This might be cliche. It depends on what crowd you run with. If you play, like, if you're playing vampire or something, but I would take immortality, just not the blood drinking, but the immortality. That would be the best superpower. Um, I don't know what it is, but I've always been like, you know what, I'm going to live as long as humanly possible. I want to ride this bad boy into the ground. Like when I leave, like there will be nothing left of me. That's just my personality. That's how I want to be. I'm like, if I don't want to tap out, I better cross 100 before I tap out, right? And there's just
Yeah.
something so wondrous to me about time passing and things changing and knowing that things can change and that things, you know, even when things are really bad, they're going to get good. When they're really good, they're going to get bad, but things change and that's exciting and interesting.
Yeah.
I would love to just hang out and
This
like
too shall
see it
pass.
all.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. But for me, when I think about immortality, I always think about losing the stuff that we love so much, and doing that over and over. That's gonna be really tough.
You know,
So,
maybe
yeah.
this might actually be part of what shaped me. I've lost a lot of people in my life, which you would
Yeah.
think I'm not even that old, but like people, it's tough, and like people get sick, and like with the drug problem that we have here, I just
Yeah.
recently lost my closest cousin to an overdose.
Mm.
So like loss is so real, but it's such a normal part of life. And I think again with that comfort that I have with knowing
Yeah.
that like there's something else, I feel comforted in that. So I don't feel that extreme loss. I think I'm kind of accepting of it, but like I think that actually has a little bit to do with why I'm like I want to live as long as possible because I see people die and I'm like, oh, how much more they could have done and experienced and seen and how much
That's
they missed
true.
out on
Yeah.
or how many sacrifices they made or chances they didn't take because they wanted to be safe, and there's just not that many days that we have to us. So if I could just have all the days, that'd be great.
Yeah. 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 And now, if you could get anything from any weird thing from games or science fiction, literature, TV, any weird fictional thing that you could turn into a real thing in our world, what would it be and why? It can be a creature, a faction, reality, dimension, a place, a person, or anything.
Oh wow, there's so much cool stuff. Like, I of course because of the way my brain works, the first thing I think of are all the things I don't want, right? Because I grew up like watching Aliens and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's really cool, but let's not have a xenomorph queen. Let's not.
Yeah.
So something that I actually would want though. Gosh, I think obviously a time travel machine. That's the easiest one. That's the easy one. Even though like I'm not super excited to like, you know, die of dysentery and, you know, it's 1600 or whatever, but like conceptually very cool to go peek for a minute. But I
Yeah,
want
see
dinosaurs. I want Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Like I don't even have to go back in time.
Yeah.
Just bring me the dinosaurs here. Bring me Jurassic Park. I think that would be honestly
That's
so
a great,
cool.
great choice. Great choice. Great choice. I think was the best one that anyone has ever done.
Bring
Nobody
me the
said
dinosaurs.
Yeah.
What's your favorite dinosaur? It's an important question.
Velociraptor. I know.
Oh,
I
classic.
think it was Jurassic Park because of the claw and stuff.
Mhm.
But now that they look like badass chickens, they look really cool too. Still.
the feathers make them look a bit better. I love the badass chickens. I'm so basic. My favorite dinosaur has always been the T-Rex with little arms, like big old giant head, and like the king of dinosaurs, but with these little tiny hilarious arms. I love the T-Rex.
Yeah, it is great, and it's very inspiring. It's very, kind of almost draconic too. It's very iconic. But the teamwork of the Velociraptor, and they're like,
oh yeah,
very cool,
the pack tactics. They're almost like little wolves, you know. I love that. No, definitely cool. I love velociraptors. I'm just such a sucker. I think it's because maybe it's like the first dinosaur I was introduced to as like a child type of thing, you know? It's like T-Rex is so iconic, and I still to this day really love me a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
And on that movie, have you seen Jurassic World? The one they created this new big dinosaurs.
Is it good?
Oh, yeah. The Tyrannosaurus saves everybody. So,
okay, that's really cool.
Yeah,
We were just
yeah,
talking about
yeah.
it the other day over here because I was like, I wonder if the original Jurassic Park still holds up. Because sometimes older movies, you
Yeah,
watch them again
it
and you're like,
does.
oh. So I
I
want to.
still like it, but the Jurassic World, the new one, it's good. I haven't watched the Jurassic World 2, but the
Mhm.
first one, I really enjoy it.
Oh, that's super exciting. I'm excited. Okay, definitely on my watch list.
Okay, Navi, now this is our last question.
Okay.
And do you remember the last time you were really happy and just, grateful for being here and being alive? And if you do, can you just share with us uh, what was that moment and how was it? How did you feel?
Oh boy. I think this might be my native setting. I love just being. I don't know how to say it, but in particular, I went for a walk yesterday, and we moved to this really tiny mountain town. So we're up in the mountains, and and we're also on a river. Figure that out geographically, but we're in the Appalachian Mountains and we're on the Allegheny River simultaneously. So we were going for a normal walk, and in order to get from our house to the coffee shop, you have to walk a bridge over the Allegheny, and it's one of my favorite things to do. I do it all the time because it's the only way to get to the coffee shop. But
Mhm.
you walk over the Allegheny River, and it's just the water is beautiful, even when it's super cold. So man, that wind whipping up over the bridge when it's cold and icy, it's brisk. But I love stopping every single time to look over the water, and I always say, I love it here so much. I really do. And every time we go for a drive, I look at the trees, I'm always like, I'm so so stoked. I love it here so much. So that was the last big time I can definitely call out, was just the other day walking across the bridge and like being able to enjoy that beautiful view and the crisp water. And our town is very kind of like sleepy. It only has like 10,000 residents, and it's tucked in kind of a valley, and like it is really good for like what is that? What's that thing like for my soul?
Experience,
I enjoy being
yeah,
here.
just feeding your soul, feeding you,
Yes.
you know, not only with food but with people and with vistas and beauty. And it's
Hmm.
very important for artists to, even in like in the bleakest place, start to find the beauty that's it's hidden there somewhere. I've been trying to do that, as you said, about like walking, and I always try to sometimes walk through different paths and try to notice maybe a house, a
Hmm.
beautiful house that I haven't noticed before, or like a tree that's just giving flowers, something that we, if we just walk around, as I said, if we walk around with our thoughts and just controlling our body like meat puppets, we won't see those things. But if we take the time to walk around and use our senses, and I ask my kids to do it when we walk around and just started talking Minecraft all the time. Let's just not talk for a while and just try to feel the breeze in our skin, feel the clothes in our body, hear the sounds, because we can hear birds, we can hear cars, we can hear, and it calms us down because we connected with the world around us. So yeah,
No, yeah,
it's
it's
yeah.
I love it. Like I love the whole just being out and looking. I do the same thing. I love
Yeah.
looking at the old houses. My kids probably have the biggest architectural vocabulary of any like 8 and 11-year olds, because like I point things out and I'm like, oh, there, that's a mansard roof. I love that. Or just pointing out these things, because these old houses, they have such interesting
Yeah.
characteristics. Yeah, I point out the difference between like a folk Victorian and a Queen Anne Victorian. And my kids, they're sponges right now, so they gobble it up. They don't care. They're like,
Yeah.
mom's just pointing at cool houses. So I actually really love that. I love looking at the different houses. And yeah, with the changing of seasons, you get the things coming in and
Yeah.
out of bloom. So we get a lot of cycles here. Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And the people are so wonderful. It feels so
Yeah.
good to be part of a community where people still like say hello to you when you're just passing in the street, or
Wow.
if you're checking out, they stop and have a conversation with you,
Yeah.
because at least here it's such a small town. I had just come from Texas, and life is so different there. The pace of life is so different there. Nobody has time to talk to anybody about anything. Full stop, right? So it was a huge switch coming over here, and all of a sudden, people were talking to me again like people, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is things we still do. We still talk to each other. This is amazing."
Yeah. 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 And I remember reading about those places that people have the longest, time of life, they live the longest.
Mhm.
And one trait that's very common to those communities, and they're small communities, and it's an integrated community. People talk to each other, so people are not alone. And I think the bigger the city we are, where have most people, sometimes it's the place where most alone because people don't talk to each other. They have
Mhm.
neighbors that they haven't even seen. I remember when I moved to another city here in Brazil, like a bigger city, and I would hold the elevator for like a neighbor to come in with me, and they would, intentionally go to the next elevator and not enter the elevator, just hold for
Mhm.
them. I was like, wow, why? You know?
Right?
It's
Like what? Let's
yeah.
let what I'm nice. I promise. Let's be
Yeah,
friends. Yeah, no, I
yeah,
know it's
not contagious. I don't know
wild.
what's happening here, but yeah. Yeah.
It really does make a
Well,
huge
Nate,
difference just having that little bit of connection with people. Like just knowing
yeah,
someone's name and like walking into a place and like seeing a familiar face, even if it's
yeah,
just somebody because you greet them every time you get your
yeah,
coffee or whatever. I love it so much. It's such a different thing. I think honestly, if anybody who has
yes.
the opportunity should try to live in a smaller town because it
We are
changes everything.
we are tribe animals.
Mhm.
We evolve, staying in small communities and being connected, and now we are every year. I feel like we're becoming more and more isolated, and it's
Mhm.
not good for our health, not only physical health but mental health.
For
So
sure.
yeah, if you can find a community that you can connect to and have these human relationships, and actually seeing people, because now we buy stuff online, we don't have to leave the house for anything, so we can be
Mhm.
completely isolated, and it's terrible. It's
It
terrible.
is. And I mean, I appreciate some of it
Yeah,
because again, like with the agoraphobia, there's some days where I just can't leave
yeah,
the house. But when I push
yeah,
myself to leave the house, I actually always feel a sense of relief because I got to
yeah.
talk to someone. I got to get some exercise. I got to see that
Yes,
beautiful river
yes,
or whatever. And it makes such a big difference. And it's so funny how we can be so resistant to the things. Brains are awful. Brains are
yes,
horrible things. We're so resistant to the things that are good for
yes.
us. I know if I get out of the
They
house,
have
I'm going to
every
be so good.
yeah. They can produce everything we Yeah. They can produce everything we need to be happy and be healthy, but they hold it hostage for us. No, you want to feel calm? Go exercise. You want to feel good? Go do something strenuous first. So yeah.
It's so true. It's just one of the things where, like especially with like referencing the thing of not wanting to go outside. Like in my head, I'm like, oh, I don't gotta go outside, and then my brain finds all these things to be anxious about, and all these reasons why I shouldn't leave the house. Oh, we're gonna have to, do something as simple as like change into real clothes so that people like that can become a roadblock when you have anxiety, something so simple as, oh,
Yeah,
I have to
yeah,
be
yeah.
presentable to leave the house. And it's so funny because, like I said, it's like my brain is sabotaging me. It's giving me all these really weak reasons to not go out, but it makes
Yeah,
them
yeah.
much bigger. And I know that as soon as I go out, I'm going to feel better. And I'm like, dirtbag brain.
Hey, it's the same thing when we're doing podcasts or running tables. But right before I'm gonna do something, I always hoping it gets canceled. It doesn't work out because it's way more comfortable to just do nothing. But that's
Yeah.
that's the resistance, and it's something I always talk about here. A book that I read talking about put your ass where the heart wants to be. It's about winning this resistance, this procrastination that we make ourselves. We invent excuses for not doing what we want to do. So the book is all about teaching you techniques to do exactly what the cover says, like to put your ass where your heart wants to be, and it has to do it actually a continuation of a book called The War of Art,
Mhm.
which is that war we are artists face with our resistance to do what we have to do. So and
I'm going to check
that
that out.
actually
That's cool.
it's a great book. It's a great book, and it's Stephen Pressfield, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
I heard it through another podcast, a comedian, Pete Holmes, who interviewed him and talked about uh, this manifestation of our ego that prevents us to do what we want to do, we were meant to do.
Mhm.
So yeah.
I
Well,
feel that.
now now, that's it. We have about 2 hours of conversation. It was very good. We You gave us so much and learned a lot about your work, your yourself, how weird and wonderful you can be, and the way you abort your work, and how you take everything and find your inspiration in these small details. So I thank you so much for being here and sharing everything with us.
Having me.
Do you have any weird message out there, any message for the weirdos out there that are listening to us before we go?
Oh man, I'm gonna be so
It can
cliche.
be to check out your work. Yeah.
I mean, definitely check out my work first of all because I'm awesome. So
Yeah,
coupledrakes.com, coupledrakes.itch.io.
Yeah.
But I think that like I'm gonna go ahead and go for it. Full cheese factor. To thine own self be true.
Yeah, that's excellent. And being true to yourself, you can be weird and authentic and wonderful. And the last thing I'll ask for you is, can you take us out just saying like the catchphrase of the show? Keep it weird, everybody.
All right, here comes. Keep it weird, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Weird Games and Weirder People. If you'd like to keep up with the show, please subscribe to be notified when we release new episodes. If you'd like to support us, please leave a review or head on to code-fi.com/WGNWP. See you next time, and remember, weird is the new wonderful.